everybody, I'm Hayley.
And I'm Kayli.
And today we're reviewing A Knock at the Cabin.
A spooky. A knock at the fridge.
At the fridge. Not my eyes finally working.
Right. That was kind of creepy. Interesting timing, to be honest.
Very mysterious.
An M. Night Shyamalan twist coming to the podcast.
Let me turn that off. I think
It's just continuously knocking.
Do you want to read your synopsis?
Yes. Let's see. It's been a while. We haven't, done anything.
We're a little rusty. Sorry, we took a hiatus. A sabbatical, if you will.
Here we go. M. Night Shyamalan's Knock at the Cabin is the trolley question brought to life. Based on the novel Cabin at the End of the World, we follow Wen and her two dads, Eric and Andrew, enjoying their time together in the woods. That is until four strangers show up at their door, begging to speak to them about an urgent matter. As any sane person would, Eric and Andrew politely reject the strangers' request. Unfortunately, the strangers don't know how to take no for an answer and break into the cabin. With the family tied up, the four intruders proceed to tell them that the world will end unless the family chooses a family member to sacrifice. With the pressure... Sorry, my mouse was on it and I couldn't tell what the word was. With the pressure of the world on their shoulders, Eric and Andrew must decide what they're willing to sacrifice.
Very good.
Thanks.
Oh, yeah. So
Time for some fun facts.
Time.
Ooh.
Pull it up. Okay. So, as you know, Knock at the Cabin, based on the book.
Ooh, that's right there.
Cabin. Yes, I have it right here. The Cabin at the End of the World.
By Paul Tremblay.
Yes. So we ended up both reading this book.
I did not realize that these were trees. I thought this was like the wood of the cabin.
Oh, I thought it was too.
But this is the cabin, and that's the trees.
Girl, I thought the same thing. I was like, oh, look at the bloody cabin wood.
Yeah.
Okay, just kidding. There's the cabin. There's the wood.
Very cool.
Okay. Interesting. Okay.
Maybe it works on both levels. Maybe it's supposed to kind of look like the cabin slats.
Honestly, it might. People are smarter than me, so of course,
especially Paul Tremblay.
Yes. So Knock at the Cabin came out in 2023. Director M. Night Shyamalan. Ratings: IMDb 6.4 out of 10.
Okay.
So. Rotten Tomatoes, as of now, the critics give it a 68%, and the audience has given it a 64%. So.
Oh wow, we're agreeing.
So,
critics
yes,
and the audience
are pretty close. The main cast, we have Dave Bautista plays Leonard, Jonathan Groff, who plays Eric, Rupert Grint, who plays Redmond, Nikki Amuka Bird plays Sabrina, Ben Aldridge plays Andrew, Abby Quinn plays Adrian, and Kristen Cui plays Wen. But yes, a little bit of fun facts about the movie. Obviously, we said earlier, it is based on The Cabin at the End of the World, which was published in 2018 by Paul Tremblay. So a little bit behind the scenes. If you do read the book at the end, it gives insight into kind of his thought process. So if you want
really?
to, yeah. So I didn't put all the notes of everything. So if you do get the book, you can read more into it. He literally goes by almost chapter by chapter and kind of just describes his reasoning behind it. I mean, it was pretty cool. So I would definitely give that a read if you got
the physical
the
copy.
Book. So just a couple things I wanted to note. So he based his book on a sketch that he drew. He just kind of scribbled a little cabin and he thought about how he doesn't really like home invasion movies, like, the cabin home invasion movies. But he was like, if I were to create a story about it that I liked, what would I do? So this is kind of what he came up with. Oh,
got you. Okay, so he doesn't like the subject matter, not in a way that it's creepy, but he just doesn't like it. That's why I was like, oh, he's scared by it.
I don't think so. No, I just think he just doesn't like the genre. But then he was like, well, how would I do it? So that's kind of his thought.
And he did poorly.
Oh.
I'm sorry. Continue.
Wow. And he wanted to mimic the vibes of the book Lord of the Flies. He said he read that right before he started writing the book, or was the latest book he read. So it's kind of a question of, I guess, humanity and what would you do given your situation. The number 7 is important. It's the amount of grasshoppers that are caught in the beginning by Leonard and Wen, and it's the amount of people in the story, 7 characters.
True.
So if you kind of notice, it's, in the book and in the movie, they catch them in the beginning, and if you leave them in the jar and they sit in the hot sun, the grasshoppers will die. So I think it's kind of an ode to the disaster to come. They're all kind of trapped in a little jar, aka the house, and it's just disastrous to come. So, and he does say that the book is about choice. This is a direct quote from what he was saying. Do we choose fear or that most defiant of all hopes, love? So he does kind of go on to say, so he does kind of make a point to mention that it's not about the apocalypse if it's happening or not. It's more about the choice itself. So I guess that does kind of give more insight, and it makes sense a little bit more if you read the book. But in an IndieWire Knock at the Cabin book versus movie ending article, he does go into say, and so here's a quote from him. He said, "I know some people don't think my ending is very hopeful, but I find my ending defiantly hopeful, even more so now that the years have passed. When I wrote it, I tried to divorce myself from thinking about it if there was an apocalypse or not. I purposefully tried to keep each piece of information balanced. And at a certain point in telling the story, it didn't matter to me if the apocalypse was happening, because the story to me became, what were Eric and Andrew going to choose? That was the story, their choice, their ultimate rejection of fear and cruelty, whether or not the apocalypse was happening." He also says, "What has happened in the cabin and what they're presented with is wrong. It's immoral and they refuse. And I find that hopeful, especially in the context of when I wrote the book." And he did make a note to say that if he read this book himself after the Trump presidency, he thinks he would have thought there wasn't an apocalypse.
There was?
There wasn't.
Oh.
He's like, after the Trump and everything like that, he was like, if I read the book, I'd probably think it wasn't happening. Because, you know, there's people who, that thing of people going on the internet and kind of creating things that don't exist.
Right.
He also mentions that he does like the movie, but he likes his ending better. He said, of course. But a Time article, Knock at the Cabin, M. Night Shyamalan interview. So he kind of goes into it a little bit. And basically what I get from the director is that he also wanted to make it more about the choice, but he also wanted it to be showing people how you can make a positive impact. It was more of, because I can't explain it. Like, I think I know what he's trying to say, but obviously in the movie, if you don't know, the movie ends differently than the book.
Yeah.
Spoiler. In the book, it ends where the couple, Andrew and Eric, decide not to go forward with killing anybody by choice. So, and you don't figure out if there's an apocalypse or not. They just decide not to. But in the movie, they do decide to kill off Eric, and Andrew and Wen are left to roam the earth by themselves, but they saved humanity. So I think M. Night Shyamalan was kind of more going on the lines of the sacrifice and choosing the greater good over everyone else. That's what it seems like. He also wanted to show society's ticking clock on making positive change and decisions. So it's like you have to make a decision that will affect others in a shorter amount of time. So looks like the director went more in a direction of actually completing the ending of whether it's an apocalypse or not. But they were both about the choice and having people kind of see themselves in that situation. They just kind of ended differently. So
yeah. I think the choice is more highlighted in the book, though, because you don't get the, excuse me, I haven't talked in a while. You don't get the satisfaction of knowing if it is an apocalypse or not. So they're also in limbo just like we are. So it's like they made that choice not knowing what is going to happen, and they still don't. So I think the choice is more highlighted in the book. And I do like how the book ended much more than the movie.
I do agree as well.
But overall thoughts? Is that where we're at?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Go ahead, Hayley. What did you think of this movie? Same.
Not my favorite. I think it was okay. I don't think I really liked the way that it went. I wish they stayed a little bit more true to the book, because I do think the book was better. I mean, obviously, I think we all think books are better, but I just think it wasn't really... not anything new, but it was just giving me a Cabin in the Woods movie where people are being sacrificed to prevent the angry gods or demons or whatever from, killing off everyone. And it was okay. I don't know. It just was very
just meh.
Okay.
Just
yeah.
average.
How about you?
I feel the same. And I like M. Night Shyamalan's movies. I recently watched Signs for the first time, even though I knew what it was about. But it was pretty decent. And like all of his other movies, I do really enjoy. But this one, I just wasn't really feeling the way that it was filmed. I'm not sure if some of these angles were like choice or like they were maybe in constraints, because there's a scene where like Rupert Grint is sitting by himself in a corner and there's nobody else in the shot, just him. So I'm like, is it an artistic choice of like he's separated from the group, like the group doesn't really like him? Or was it like he wasn't on set one day with everybody else, and so they had to film it where he was separate, but make it seem like he was there. You know what I mean? Okay. So I couldn't tell if some of these shots were like artistic or just because they had to. And the story and the acting and the way that it all went was just kind of a flop for me. I didn't really love the book either, but I did still prefer it at the end of the day. So it was kind of just a a disappointing ride. I was pretty excited to see it come to life, and I was hoping that M. Night Shyamalan would do a twist like he's known for, because I didn't really love the book. But the twist that it was, I was like, bitch, take it back.
Yeah.
Retwist it the other way.
I didn't think, somebody was asking me if there was a twist, and I was like, not really. I think the entire time they were pointing to an apocalypse happening, and the apocalypse ended up pretty much happening. Like, it wasn't a big question. I mean, I think with the news reports and everything, you see the planes falling out the sky. I mean, you're like, yeah, it looks like an apocalypse is happening, and then all of a sudden, all around the cabin, lightning striking and everything's going to shit. So you basically know there's an apocalypse happening. So to me, there was no twist.
It wasn't vague enough of like, for me is it going
confused.
To be? Yeah,
not really. Like, I was like, okay, I'm kind of leaning towards I'm believing the people who've come in after like the evidence. I think the book did a great job of kind of making you kind of go back and forth between are these people just in a cult and they've got caught up in just that, or
coincidences as well. Because like there was a lot of pre-recorded things that were happening, so they're like, well, they knew this was already happening, so that's why. It wasn't
live news, right. So if something happened, it happened. It's been happening for a while, and they're just riding off the coattails of other disasters to kind of make their point. So and then in the book you don't find out if Redmond is actually the person who hit Andrew with the beer bottle. So you actually don't find that out. In the movie you do, because he goes and pulls out the wallet, but in the book you don't. It's just, you don't know. Who are these people? We don't know. Is Andrew right in his accusations? You don't know. Is there an apocalypse? Is there an apocalypse happening? You don't know. So I did appreciate that in the book more, because it made me a little bit more curious. But in the movie, to me, it was pretty much like the apocalypse is happening. What are we going to do? I thought it was okay. I don't think the acting was super strong in this movie. It was okay. I think Andrew and Eric did a really good job.
I agree.
I think that those actors did pretty great. Especially Andrew. Let me get his name, so I'm not just referring them to their
Andy
stage names. Yes, Jonathan Groff and Ben Aldridge. I think they did a really good job acting. Everybody else was okay. And I get it. This is a very hard film to act, I believe, when you're the four people, aka the strangers that came to the cabin,
the four horsemen,
because they're not necessarily evil, but they're very sad, and they're confused and conflicted, but they're very concerned for the world. So I will say that's a pretty hard role to do.
I agree.
So I'm not just gonna say, trash. But it is very tricky. I just felt like when they were acting, could see they were acting a little bit. It was almost not forced, but they're trying really hard to seem desperate, and I'm like, I can kind of feel it.
Yeah.
So to me, I think it did take a little bit away from the film, because I wasn't getting more of a genuine desperation feel from the four strangers who came, but they didn't do bad. I just think it could have been a little bit stronger, but that's pretty tough to portray, so I'll give them that.
I feel bad, because a lot of people in the reviews that I was reading, they really liked his performance, Dave Bautista, but I felt like he was the weakest one out there. I couldn't get behind him. And I think with the book, you can interpret how their actions are. You can interpret it as being desperate or maybe malicious, because you don't really know their motivations. You don't really know if you can trust them. So with Leonard, he has that gentle giant because he's playing with wind in the beginning, catching grasshoppers, being really nice, but there's like an undertone of either desperation or like malice. And like I like that. It was very confusing, because you were like, is he lying or is he being honest? And he doesn't really know how to go through this whole thing. And he was a lot younger too, so it adds to the confusion of everything. So Leonard is a really hard character to pull off, and I don't think my boy Dave was there. So he was very one note to me, and it was very much so you know what I mean? It was just staring, and I wasn't getting behind it. And I like Dave Bautista in Guardians, so keep that up, but maybe don't do this one again.
Yeah, and I didn't so in the book, the character is a lot younger, like early 20s, maybe mid 20s. So, and I feel like it gives more to the story when Leonard's younger, because he's a little bit more naive and a little more looking at the world through a younger, trying to make a positive impact. He's a little bit maybe more easily swayed by the world. So I think it gives more of a dimension to his character, because it's like, is he serious or is he not? Like, he's this young kid who believes he's found the way and the right, and he needs to do something. And anyway, so I think it's a little bit better if the character was younger, because it kind of fits a little bit more. Dave's character, Dave is obviously older. So to me, he was almost acting like a child, like a kid.
Trying.
Yeah, it was like a little too innocent and naive. And not saying that somebody who's, you know, big and strong and muscular can't exude that, but I just think with given his age and everything, the character, like, it just wasn't working. I was like, he's a little too old to be acting this kind of way. It seems like it needs to be somebody who's younger with less life experience.
Yeah.
That makes, like, Redmond was older, but you could tell Redmond has been through life. Like, he's angrier. He's like, you know, he's not much there. But Leonard's like, no, guys, let's be nice. Let's be nice. So
and it was just like a kid. Was hard to see that.
So yeah, it was hard for it to translate when I'm looking at Dave's character and just the energy he gives. It was too much like life experience. So I feel like the character would not have been acting like that if Leonard's character had been 55. I think that's how old Dave Bautista is, or, you know, 40s, 50s. So rather than being the character what is written, which is like 24.
Right.
So I think that's what the disconnect was there, is it was like Dave was trying to portray this innocence, and it wasn't there.
Right.
So that would be my comment for that. But I don't think he did a horrible job. I just think overall it just was it was okay. But I guess I just wasn't satisfied at the end. I know they kind of gave us the answer, but I was like, did I want an answer? Maybe I didn't want an answer.
I don't think I did either, but it's just, there was no subtlety or like confusion as to if it was happening or not. Because like you said, there was that whole lightning storm that happened. And there is a moment where Dave Bautista's character, Leonard, he was saying exactly what that lady was saying in the news, and it was live. So like it makes it seem like it is actually happening. That wasn't in the book.
Okay, yeah, he didn't say word for word what was in the book.
No. So I liked in the book how because there's a conversation that happens between Andrew and Eric at the end where they're building a case for both sides. He's like, well, you know, it could, like, how can you say all these things are coincidences? And he was like, well, they knew that there's a tsunami thing and a tsunami warning and everything that happened, so they could, you know, justify that maybe another thing would happen. They also they knew that the bird flu was happening too. So there's a lot of things that they already knew, and they're checking their watches, and there's like a lot of already pre-recorded stuff. So it was cool to see that they both were not really sure. They were grasping with what they had, and they couldn't make a case for either one. So, but with the movie, it was very much like, no, there's apocalypse happening, and Andrew's kind of being a dick for not wanting to like kill his husband.
Yeah.
Because if you like, all that seemed like a lot of evidence against Andrew. And so you couldn't like really side with his struggles of being like, nah, fuck this, I'm not killing you. Yeah. So I feel like if it was more up in the air, like it was in the book, then I would have sided more with Andrew's whole, like, I can't kill you because fuck this. Even if it is real, these people suck.
Yeah. That's why I like the book, because Sabrina in the book, actually, she doesn't die until a little bit later, but she actually helps him escape, because that's why I like the book brings up more moral questions.
Especially when the killing off the kid, they killed the daughter.
In the book, Wen dies. Yeah. So that did not happen in the movie. So when Wen dies, I think that shakes everything up more, because it was like, that's not how, you know, everybody's like, that's not what was supposed to happen. They thought, you know, Eric and Andrew would pick either Eric or Andrew. But at the end, Sabrina is literally like, she's like, I still believe that the apocalypse is happening. I still believe this is it. She's like, I don't know who I'm following, and honestly, I don't agree. So she kind of helps him escape. And I like that more, because it's like, even if you're asked to do something by a higher power, does it make it morally right? Do you still have a choice? Can you still...
It's that choice thing.
Yeah. And the writer also made a point, after Wen died, Eric and Andrew's world kind of already ended. So to them,
they were over it.
Yeah, they were like... Because her death didn't actually count, because she was killed accidentally, not by a sacrifice. Yeah. So they were pretty heartbroken. So I did like how it was more questions of, should we even be following this entity? You know, should we even be trying to do this? This isn't morally right. Like, we're torturing this family on behalf of everybody else, you know. So I did like that a little bit better. And it is kind of like, what would you do in the situation? I mean, I probably wouldn't believe anybody who came in, to be very honest with you.
Oh, if I was Andrew and Eric, no.
No, I'm swinging. No, we're going crazy. But yes, so I wish there was a little bit more of a moral question. I think they were focusing kind of on the adventure itself of like, oh, what are they doing? What's next? But I kind of did like the questions of what's morality. Even going on? Yeah. Should we even be doing this? Blah, 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 blah. But
because I think it translates really well today, especially with like TikTok. Like, there's a lot of people who have a lot of conspiracies about what is going on. And so whenever you're at this decision of like, how much can we believe in these people? Because there's a line, like, we are allowing, for the most part, people to believe in a god or in their religion, and we don't judge them. But like, whenever they push it a little bit further, like, I'm getting visions from God that the world's ending, then we're like, hey, yo, we can't take this anymore. Yeah. So it's like a cool like conversation about like, all of these different types of people, like if they truly believe in it and they're not playing a part, if they truly believe that there's something going on and they want to share the message, like, wouldn't that be kind of what you would do in that situation too? Of like, I for real feel like the world is going to end and I have to save as many people as I can. But then what if it doesn't really happen?
Yeah.
So I like that conversation.
And even how they met on the web form.
Yeah.
Because it's like when you get in your own bubble and you've convinced yourself and you find people who've convinced themselves and now you're all convincing each other of the same thing. There is also that. Do they really get these visions?
Or were they just playing
they're
off
all
of...
did kind of experience something, but now that they've kind of found each other, they're kind of hyping themselves up. Who knows? From what they say, it seems like it was pretty specific, everything they had visions about. But I mean, you have people in today's age. I mean, I listen to a podcast that kind of goes over cults and like how they start and all this stuff. And it's just a big group thing. Like people just keep going with the same thought. And now they're spiraling and they've convinced themselves that their leader is the next Jesus or God and da 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 da. I mean, it sounds like crazy, but it is also hard to believe people because you're like, this has happened time and time again.
Right.
People get together, they convince themselves of a thing, and then they go try to do that thing. And now they're trying to recruit other people or trying to get other people to do what they want to do. And a lot of them do center around the apocalypse. Yeah. So it makes it even more unbelievable. Like, of course, you're coming in here saying you had visions and now there's an apocalypse. Like, that's literally what every cult has done. And every cult up to this point has been wrong.
Well, or they've been right because whenever they're an apocalypse cult, they kind of tend to die at the end.
But they're dying. But they die because they say the apocalypse is coming. So they die and we're still here. Yeah. So they either died way too early or maybe.
But it's just like
I don't know
in the book where like they were killing themselves off. So even if they were wrong, there's no apocalypse. They're dead, so it doesn't matter. Their apocalypse did happen to them.
That was their apocalypse. Yeah. But yeah, so it's just hard to believe somebody even if they came in. I mean. If they had some really concrete evidence, maybe, but Andrew in the book was kind of counteracting.
He did have some points.
Some of the stuff, and he's like, this just isn't, anyway. So, and it's also interesting, like the day and age, we just have a ton of information. We have so much information. Like sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe the apocalypse is here. Like bad things just keep happening and happening and happening. Yeah. But then I remember bad things have always happened. You just don't know about it.
That's true.
Like
we're
back
just
in the
very
day,
connected.
There wasn't this, TV news system or TikTok, and I get to see every horrible thing ever that's ever happened. Always. And obviously, all the negative stuff tends to make the news. So part of me was like, is it really that all this stuff is going on, or is it just negative stuff? It's just there's always some kind of, there's a terrible earthquake recently in I think Turkey, and there's a couple of other things that go on, and sometimes it does feel like it's like again and again and again. So I don't know how much of it is actually like correlated to some bigger higher apocalypse, or I'm like, or do we just know more stuff now and we can see it and visualize it and it feels like it's the world's going to shit. So that's what I would also think too. I'm like, the news is just nothing but bad news. Rarely are they trying to show you a feel good story. I mean, every now and then, but negativity is
what sells.
It sells. So sometimes I'm like, the news is just negative. He could probably turn on the news at any time and it's going to be something negative. There's a new thing that broke out. These people died, or this serial killer's doing this. So I'm just like, it would be a tough sell. We would just die if it was me. I'm not gonna lie. I would probably tell them that they all need to kill. I'd be like, y'all gotta just die now because I'm not waste your time.
Right.
And then I'm just gonna leave.
And then if the world is ended, I'm still chilling. Either way.
But I don't get what they were doing though, because every time they did kill one of the members, there was the apocalypse kept going. So I'm like, what is their sacrifice doing?
Right.
And they try to make it seem, at least in the book, that they're postponing the apocalypse, but I'm like, it seems like it's just getting worse, and these sacrifices in the meantime aren't helping anything. So I don't know if I wasn't getting that.
I didn't really understand it in the book either. I think the movie does it a little bit better, where it seems like they are causing the next part to happen, because they're like another part of humanity. I forgot what they said before they got killed, but they would say something. They said something about like another part of humanity is dead because of you. And so
they died as like a symbol of that, or they're supposed to be a sacrifice, because I thought they were a sacrifice.
I think in the book it's more of a sacrifice, but in the movie I think it's more of like what was the other option? A sacrifice or what?
A symbol?
Oh, a symbol.
A symbol.
I think it's more of a symbol, because they also talk about how they are the 4 horsemen in the movie,
which wasn't really in the book.
No, and I don't really understand how they're the 4 horsemen, because it's like the 4 horsemen are like war, famine, death. Is it are they supposed to be the opposites?
Well, yeah, they said like malice.
They said malice, healing, nourishment, and like leadership or teaching with Leonard.
Yeah, and
so I was like, those are not the 4 horsemen.
Maybe it's another version. I'm sure there's many versions of the 4 horsemen. I guess there is,
but I think the most popular one is the one in the Bible, and that's not what it is. So I'm just kind of confused as to how they were even the 4 horsemen. in that way, because they didn't really represent any of that.
No.
Unless they were supposed to be the opposite. I don't really
But now that you said, it's crazy because if you really think about it, the 4 strangers that came in, that's like every religion ever. Maybe not to this scale, maybe not to that magnitude of coming to a stranger's home and forcing them to make a sacrifice. But if you think about it, like even in the Christian Bible, it's giving apocalypse. There's gonna be demons running around. Like, it's crazy. If you read what's supposed to happen, like it sounds like this. So you sit here and all these people are crazy. Da da da. I'm like, this is what many religions talk about. So is it that far fetched? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, this is what people are trying to convince people today.
That's why
you know what I mean?
It's hard to draw the line of like what we'll tolerate from people, because it's like we can let you believe in a God, but like whenever y'all start talking about apocalypse and the world ending, y'all gotta calm down.
Well, that's when it gets a little murky.
Yeah.
Because it's like you have the religion that has to do with your everyday life and, you know, trying to be a better person, helping others. And then there's always that section of religion that's like also the apocalypse.
Right.
It's like this weird section, this weird chapter.
Yeah.
And it gets real serious and it's like different than everything else. But it's like, if you think about it, it's like the little, who goes door to door?
Oh, the Mormons? Is
They
it
knock
Mormons?
at the door. They say, you're going to hell.
You want to learn more about
You
Jesus?
want to learn more about us? Yeah. But I'm like, it's not that far-fetched. Like, you think these strangers are crazy. And then it's like, actually, this is what religions do today. They try to convince you that you're going to suffer if you don't do X, Y, Z. Whatever that is. But that's the general of most religions is that. So I'm like, it's kind of weird that
it can lead to this, basically.
it could. I mean, this is definitely a more extreme version. But I'm like, what they're doing is technically what people do all the time. They just don't.
They're not
come to your house and do all that
talking
extra stuff.
Right.
But
you
it
gotta
is
take
like,
someone to sacrifice.
yeah, it's like you have to, you know, sacrifice your life to, at least Christian, to Jesus and God in order to not go to hell and suffer. Da, da, da. I'm like, that kind of sounds crazy if you think about it. A lot of stuff sounds crazy. I'm like, so to your point, what is the line of like crazy but not crazy? Interesting.
It makes it so scary because like if something were to be happening, like if someone did come to our door and be like, hey, like y'all gotta kill somebody or the world really is gonna end, and they have some evidence, then it's like, are these all coincidences or is it actually evidence?
It's true. Or even like in the Bible when Jesus came and said, I'm the Son of God.
Right.
And people are like, of course, growing up, I'm like, how could they not believe him? He's the Son of God. I say, if another man came out today and was like, I'm the Son of God, I'm God reincarnate, and I will bless you, we would be like, sit down.
Yeah.
Sit down. I mean, I guess maybe if he started performing miracles, but
I think in the Bible it says that like the Antichrist is the one who's gonna fool everybody and like do the same things Jesus can do, but it's not Jesus.
Okay, I'm like, what are we supposed to do?
Yeah, so at that point it's just like
you just have to, the vibes are off. His vibes are giving demon. Like, what are you supposed to do at this point?
That's what I feel like.
Crazy.
I feel like it happens a lot on TikTok right now though. Like there's a lot of people who are like, guys, we're coming into a shift. Like we're gonna shift into 5. Maybe it's my feed. I might be.
I said, luckily I'm just looking at cat videos.
I think I might be on the wrong side of TikTok.
Movie film.
They'll be like, they'll do that. They'll say like, guys, we're about to shift. Like things are happening, and like if you are not prepared, you will get left behind. And so like it gives you this intense feeling of like something bad is gonna happen. And but whenever something doesn't really happen, they can still be like, well, yeah, we did shift. We left the timeline.
Yes, it's always we're getting there.
Yeah.
We're on our way.
Yeah.
The signs are starting to show, but there is no definitive when it's happening. They're like, it's just happening. And I'm like, is it happening, or does bad stuff happen to America and we go, oh, the apocalypse? Like, I can't remember for the life of me what happened, but I remember everybody's freaking out and they're like, this is a sign. I said, other countries have been through so much shit. And we never say the apocalypse is coming. Right. But let a little inconvenience thing happen to Americans and all of a sudden the apocalypse is coming. I'm like, it's just because we live our general cushy lives out up here. Like, I'm like, other countries, there have been countries in war for years and years and years. And people have lived through war and death and suffering.
A lot worse.
For years. And I'm talking war. Like, not our soldiers went. I mean, obviously our soldiers are sacrificing their lives, but I'm saying it's different when your country is going somewhere else and you're not in there. But I'm like, imagine being in a place where that is your life.
Yeah.
But we're sitting over here and something happens and we're like, oh no. The world's ending. I'm like, the world has probably been ending.
For a long time.
But anyway, it's interesting to see. It's like, what is a sign? Because I think I have seen some of those, or even when I would go to church and something would happen and, oh, the end times are near, you know, And then I'm like, and it's the same thing of, why do I have to do that? Why do we have to go through this?
Yeah.
I ain't asked to be here. Are you telling me I gotta be done the apocalypse? If I'm here, I guess if you die before, are you free of that, or do you have your own little test going on? Like, did you just get the unlucky hand of being alive during the apocalypse? Like, that seems super unfair.
Honestly.
That seems so whack. Like, you're here for the apocalypse and you have to like do whatever it is that you need to do in order to like still go to heaven or to paradise.
I don't know. I like apocalypse movies because they're usually zombie based. But I started watching The Last of Us and it's very much like, damn, I couldn't do this.
That was like trash. I mean, am I going to get penalized for just out like leaving week one?
Right.
I'm sorry. The zombie coming up. I'm like, I'm not. Y'all want me to sit here through an apocalypse?
Because that's too much.
And live for. I'm so sorry.
It's too much. Because even in The Last of Us, they built a society 20 years later, and they're like,
still trash.
They're working and doing. I'm like, they still working.
They're still working. The government's still trash. The government is still trying to, control everybody.
Yes.
Even I'm like, look.
So it's like, why am I here?
It's been fun.
I'm here with no running water, being gross and nasty,
Stank.
fighting for my life.
One shower a month with a bucket.
Hell no.
So
at this point, take me back to my old life or kill me now.
You know what? I'll do the 9 to 5. I'm sorry I complained.
Right. Maybe it's supposed to put this on to perspective. That's how we start appreciating our mundane lives.
I'm not going to make it, y'all.
Because I couldn't imagine still running for my life.
But I don't subscribe to the idea that humanity has to go on.
Mm-hmm. So she was Andrew in this movie.
Because my thing is, eventually, like anything else, I'm sure in the universe, like things come to an end. Mm-hmm. There are suns that die. It'll be billions of years later or whatever. But I'm like, it seems like there is a cycle of life.
And who are we to extend ours?
Who am I to try to force the extension of our species? It doesn't look like we're doing that great of a job. Because I remember they were talking about eventually trying to, terraform Mars so we could, in case we need to move. I'm like, for what? Why are we trying so hard to continue human life? Be for real. Why?
Honestly,
if we're all dead, who's here to care? Like,
it's true.
I know that's like really dramatic, and maybe of course the apocalypse comes. I'm like, no, humanity. But it's that thing of why do we even care to? Aside from the suffering, obviously, I think the biggest thing for me is the people left going through that. The suffering to me, I don't want people to go through. But if we skip that and we okay, just humanity will end at some point.
It's wiped out, right?
Is there a need to keep going? Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Be honest. See, Kayli left. She said, what are we doing?
You're right. I'm out of here.
Anyway, so yes, I'm just very much like if you're going to give me this choice, then no. But the biggest thing is they did say that they would roam the earth by themselves. I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, but for how long? Until I
die?
guess
until you just die.
Right.
Chilling. You just stay at the cabin.
Right. Okay.
Sounds
good. Bye.
Sorry for y'all.
So if y'all are going to die, I need y'all to do it outside because this is my new home.
This is my house. Die in the cities or wherever.
Right.
Don't come here. But yeah, I'm just very much.
It's an interesting concept because being in the shoes of either one, because it's like, what if I did get visions and things are going to happen if this family doesn't kill somebody? Then it's like, how would you go about convincing them?
And how would I feel if the story was told in the point of view from the 4 people who came, the strangers? Because from Eric and Andrew's point, I hated them. I'm like, even if they're right, I hate them. I want them to leave. I don't like them. They're annoying me, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. But had we started with them and then ended with them just showing up to Eric and Andrew's cabin, would I have a different perspective? Would I be more on their side? Is it just the side that you're on that you journeyed with? That's the side you're on?
Yeah.
If I really went through them and they had all these visions and they met up and they were freaking out and they were like really nervous and they had to do this thing, I might be like, come on, Eric, Andrew, make the sacrifice.
Because that's how they were really feeling. They're like, wow, y'all wouldn't sacrifice somebody to save the world? And they're like, no.
I think it's yes, but we don't know if you are being honest.
That's what it really is.
That's
it's
what
like,
it comes
how
down
can
to.
we even believe what you're saying?
Because it's not that I'm not trying to sacrifice somebody for the world. Right. It's the fact that I have to sit here and then do it and hope that you're right. I don't even know you. And I have to hope that you're being honest. But even if you believe what you're saying, you could still be wrong.
That's true.
You couldn't convince yourself of anything.
That's true.
And then if you come
And that's
here,
what it is. A lot of their evidence is mind-based. Like they don't have any concrete proof of anything. So it's like you're really just taking their word for it that they're being honest. But then like if Redmond is actually the guy who attacked Andrew, then it makes things more malicious. Like maybe they're just here to torture us.
Yes.
Maybe that guy was actually trying to plan some kind of revenge. And so I guess that's why in the movie I was like, so it was him, but like
what now?
Yeah. I'm like, why did he, like, was it just a coincidence that it was the same dude who attacked him?
I guess so, because the apocalypse did happen.
It did happen. So I think if they would have just, I don't know. I really wish that the movie was more vague like the book was, because it makes it seem like, oh, so it could really go either way. Like it's either some actual apocalyptic thing or it's just a vindictive person who got a group of people to believe in some kind of hoopla and was able to enact revenge by killing yourself in front of them. I don't know.
And I think because it's two men, their husbands, it also added to the maybe vagueness, because all of a sudden one of the guys was involved in, I believe, it seemed like from what Andrew was saying, he got hit because he was gay. Yeah, they were being gay. Sorry, they were being gay.
They were being gay?
Sorry. Because they were gay.
The scandal.
So that's what happened at the bar, is it was kind of like a hate crime. And so then now you're like, oh, is this because they're gay? You know, is this this a religious?
And that's how they were pushing it in the beginning too.
Well, yeah, because you're kind of confused. Like, did they get targeted?
Right.
Is this, is this some weird cult thing that got going on? And so I think that also gave more to it, because you're like, well, you're right. And then if that's one of the guys that attacked him and he had to go to jail and now he's mad and years later they come, it would be weird, but you don't know if it's him or not. So you're like, I don't know. And then I think it's also because in the book, Eric's parents didn't really accept him of being gay, but he grew up Catholic. So you see a lot of Eric's struggle, because Eric still believes in, I think, religion and God. Andrew, not so much, but you do see Eric's inner struggle of like leaning towards believing them, but also struggling with his own faith, and how he's kind of been rejected by the religion a little bit, but still has an attachment to it. So I think Eric is a little bit more inclined, but then he's also got a concussion. So the whole time you don't even know if he's seeing what he's supposed to be seeing.
That was what I wish they played more off of in the movie, because it was like the concussion was a big deal in the book. Like, especially when we are in the perspective of Eric, like you could tell that he was tripping. He was
and
like,
even he was like, I don't know, but you could tell he was getting a little bit more convinced towards
that
the
it was
end.
actually happening.
So that his concussion combined with his religious backgrounds and everything that's happened, you can kind of see that he's like, well, maybe this is it. And Andrew's like, hell no.
Yeah, he's absolutely not.
That was kind of interesting as well.
I wish they would have played more on it.
That dynamic of, it was just a little bit more dynamic, because you're like, yep, they are a gay couple, but what does religion mean for them? Does that mean that they're being targeted because of this? Or does that mean that it's not a factor? What is it? You just don't know. So, and you don't find out, because they just go, what is the last line?
They said, we gonna walk through this life together.
We will go on.
Yeah, basically.
They said, They just said, fuck it. And I don't blame them, because you go through all that trauma. Even if you believe in it, you're like, you know what?
Oh, well.
We're going to be traumatized for the rest of our lives.
Because the fact that their sacrifice actually didn't count, because it wasn't like a planned one. So it's like, so I still have to kill another person in my family.
Yep. They were like, boo. This is a bad game. This is not a good game.
This is a rigged game. I don't know. It's a tough decision. It's a tough thing to face, I guess, because if you're on either side, it's hard to get anything done, really.
I would have got y'all killed. I'm not gonna lie. Sorry.
Because at that point, if they're having visions and stuff, what if y'all are just mentally ill?
And they just happen to find each other? Questions. We just don't know.
Because that one girl, I think it was Sabrina, she was like having blackouts at lost time, and she kept having like these visions of like being in water and all this kind of stuff. She couldn't tell what was going on. I'm like, girl, it sounds like a mental break.
Thin line between the Lord and you needing to go to therapy. It's a tough one. That's why it's like, I do believe in some supernatural events, but I also believe a lot of it's hoopla. So what do you believe? And you can't prove it, like you said earlier. This is something I can't tangibly give to you. You would have to experience it yourself. And that's what you have to convince somebody, that you are feeling this, you saw this, you know this. Like, I'm just like, how do you convince somebody?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. The world would be apocalyptic.
Oh, sorry. But y'all wouldn't know it was my fault, would y'all? So
I guess not. Like, what are you going to do? But does that mean that there have been families before this?
Right. I think that's what it was kind of hinting at, too.
Kind of like Cabin in the Woods? Where there's a sacrifice every year, or however many years.
Until that one person fucks it up for everybody and kills the world. Oops.
I'm saying, do we need to go on? And if, to me, the god or gods or whoever really wants to kill, I'm like, y'all wanna, you just start the apocalypse.
Right.
Why is it up to us?
Right.
You clearly want to.
Because that was the thing too. They're like, why us? Why this family? They're like, maybe it's because your love for each other is so strong. Get the fuck out. No, I need a real reason.
Stop. Just because we have love for each other. Get out. That's why I'm like, you know what? It looks like God just wants to start the apocalypse. Let him know it's a go. It's a go. T-minus 10 seconds. Get it started. Because why is it my choice? It's not a human's choice on whether or not the apocalypse. I'm like, you know what I mean?
Why are they putting it on me?
That's like, yeah. You created everything. You do it. You want to do it, go do it.
He said, I need someone to.
Unless it's a test. Kind of like, what's that movie, The Gift? Pandora's Box. It's one where the aliens come and are testing humans.
Oh, to see they'll press that button?
Yes, that's slightly different, but it's like, if this family doesn't do it, they are going to unleash the it's not like a apocalypse by God, but the aliens are going to kill off. They're like, is this species worth living? So then they come down to see if there will be a sacrifice made. It's a test. Granted, that one was a little bit more of a selfish task because that was press the button, you get $1 million, but somebody on Earth dies. No, I'm sorry. Anytime that happens, I go, not all money is good money.
I don't want your blood money.
Be easy.
Psych.
So it's like, maybe it's like that. Maybe God is like, you know what? Is humanity good enough? Let's find out. They get to stay.
That's what the Bible is all about. It's about tests. He said, let's see what's going on.
And we'll never be.
We keep failing.
We keep sucking.
Every time.
So yeah, I'm like, maybe it's just that. It's like a test to see if humanity deserves to go on. But that to me is not fair. God himself's going to have to talk to me. Because you can't send other humans. But
even if he does, though, like, would you believe it?
If it's God, like, taking me to somewhere and I can't see, he's supposed to be really bright and I can't even look at him. Oh my God. And I feel his presence. But then I got to go kill somebody.
Right,
like,
exactly.
What God said. It's a lose-lose.
Honestly, it really is.
It's a lose-lose. Because people will say God said every time.
That's true. They
God
believe
said we were meant to be. They divorced 3 years later. I'm like, okay. I mean, maybe y'all were meant to be.
For 3 years. It's temporary.
Yeah, I just feel like it's hard. Because the minute you say God told me to, it's like, how do you argue with that?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. God tells you to. I don't know what to tell you.
God told me to tell you to stop.
Well, God said to me. That's crazy. He spoke to me too. Just now. So that's tough. I guess you just gotta. I don't have an answer. So that's why it's an interesting thing. But I think it has to do a lot of even like what's going on today. Because like you said, I think there's a lot of people that are not obsessed, but just very watching the apocalypse and all that stuff.
All these conspiracies and everything else too.
And this and that.
You can build an audience on anything now. So it's like you can have a whole bunch of people believing you, even if you don't really believe it.
You don't know what's going on. And just remember, kids, not everything you read on the internet is true. I don't care if it sounds really good. I've read some stuff and then I go through the comments and everybody's like, this is so inaccurate. This is not even da-da-da. And I'm like, oh, my dumbass kind of low-key believe this.
Me too.
So I'm trying to also keep in mind that just because somebody says something on the internet
doesn't mean
just because they have a large following, just because that they were right about these things, it does not mean that everything that they're giving to you is accurate information. So please always do your research to yourself and don't get hype. And I've even started where I skip negative things. Like if it's a polarizing subject or if it's this or that, I'm like, I don't even want to read it. Because it's just going to make me mad or make me scared or this or that. And I go,
I don't need that energy.
I don't need that. So I'm trying to protect my space from all this negativity.
Amen. What is your rating, Hayley?
What would you give overall, was it out of 5?
Yeah.
2 out of 5. I think about a 2 is fine. Can't give it a 3. I don't think it's something I'd watch again. I just don't. It was kind of like somebody wrote a story once and then that was kind of it. Like, I don't know. It just wasn't making me think. I just feel like the book was a little bit more in depth with the moral discussions, and this one was a little bit more about
the surface level.
Yeah, a little more surface level, but I mean, I wouldn't say it was horrible. I do think it's an interesting concept. I can't really give it to the movie though, but
right.
I mean, I do think it was an interesting premise, and I think that the 2 characters for Eric and Andrew did a really good job. Like Andrew especially, he was making me nervous. Like I was like, he's freaking out. I'm like, you're freaking, I'm freaking out. So yeah, I mean, I thought it was shot well. I thought it looked good.
What did you give the book? Out of 5.
I'll give the book a 3 out of 5. I'll give it a 3 out of 5. Once I start thinking a little bit more on what he was intending to do. But I do not like books and movies that are kind of the
ambiguous
ending.
Yeah.
I get it. If done right, it's fine. But I think if the whole book I'm enthralled in if it is or if it isn't, and maybe I read it improperly, but it's kind of like the whole time I'm like, is it not? Because to me, that does make a difference in the ending. Because they're like, it's not about if it is or is it not. It's about their choice. I'm like, but their choice is dependent on if it is or not. You know what I mean? Like their choice doesn't matter if these people made it up.
Right.
Like there's no choice. You know what I mean? It's not. The only way that choice matters is if there's really an apocalypse. You know what I mean?
Or does it? Or does it really matter?
But you know what I'm saying? Their choice only really matters because if they do kill or don't kill, shut up. If they do kill or don't kill, that will save the world. But if nothing's happening anyway, they don't need to make a choice. It's just, it is what it is. They can make a choice, but they didn't really need to. So that's why I was like, I feel like I kind of wanted to know the ending, but I get what he was doing. It was more of just kind of a moral, what would you do? They ended up just choosing themselves in the end. So
as I would as well.
But I hate those endings. Like I'm so enthralled, and then they're like, and then you don't know. I'm like, ugh! Now I gotta make something up in my mind.
But it's true. But I think it's cool too in this one because like the characters also don't know. So it's like they're stuck too. They're on both sides of the thing. So if it would have been different if they actually knew, I guess.
Yeah.
And we didn't, so.
That's true. So I guess we'll never know, but I guess that's the whole point of life. We'll never know.
Until we die.
Even then, maybe we just cease to exist.
Anyways, what I thought about this movie, I thought it was it was okay.
What's your rating?
I would give it a 2 as well. I like the book a little bit better. I gave it a 2.5, so very little. But I read one of other. Let me fix that sentence. Let me fix that one. I read another one of Paul Tremblay's books called Head Full of Ghosts, and it's very much the same thing of like, is it supernatural or is it mental illness?
Is it?
That was mental illness. Is it supernatural or is it mental illness or is it just someone lying kind of thing? So I do like those types of discussions. And I just don't think this book really did it well because of the way that it kind of panned out. There was a moment where Eric and Andrew were arguing if this was real or not, but this was at the point where Wynn had already died. And I was like, why do you give a shit? Because it doesn't matter. So I feel like the pacing was a little off in the book. In the movie, it was just kind of bland for me. It didn't give me the thrills I was expecting. Also, I would recommend not listening to the audiobook because it sounds like those text-to-speech types of things the whole time. Yeah. So it was just very boring to listen to. It was really hard for me to get through it. So I would recommend probably just reading it with your eyes.
Your eyeballs.
Yeah. So I don't know. I would still watch more M. Night Shyamalan movies because I do like them. I think they're interesting and he does well. He does a well.
Yeah. I do like his other films.
I think they're pretty good.
I didn't mind Old. Everybody hated that one.
Old was also not my favorite.
I mean, it wasn't like, but I was like interesting. Like it was at least an interesting premise, and I was like that one. I was like, okay.
I wonder if we would have thought this was an interesting premise if we didn't read the book.
I can't tell because I already knew the premise. Yeah. So I mean, I think when I first heard of what was going on, I was like, okay, because it was like an invasion home, but they weren't actively trying to kill and torture. It was like they're
so it's
here.
A little bit different.
Yeah. So I was like, it was a little bit different. So I guess it is home invasion, but it wasn't.
With a twist.
Malice.
Not malice against the people.
The people there. They were there for a reason, but they just kind of got them cornered. So.
I think it's a very interesting subject to talk about, especially nowadays where, like we were talking about with TikTok and social media, you can basically say anything is happening and people will tend to believe you, seems like. So
you got confidence and a nice smile,
then they'll believe in anything.
Like politicians.
You just have to like pinpoint at real things that have happened and just twist it to be like, this is bad.
Right. You just need a few factual elements.
And that's it.
And I feel like when I was like listening to the cult podcast, it's like that's what it is. There's enough truth to what they're saying for them to curate a bigger story or a narrative about themselves, usually the leaders. And that's how it always starts. It always starts off with good intentions with some truth with this and that, and then it always spirals into something that's just wild. But these people are convinced. Like people have literally, what is it, when they went to drink the Kool-Aid? Like they are willing to risk their lives for this. So they were convinced. So that's what I'm saying. I'm like, these people are convinced. So I believe the people in the book were convinced because there are people in real life who have sacrificed themselves in order to do XYZ. So I'm like, that's wild.
It is crazy. But if you like things that have twists and turns and a little culty vibes, then maybe you'll like our Instagram at Hayley and Kayli. We also have a TikTok at Press Podcast, and we have a website, Press Podcast, as well. What else do we have?
We have an email, presspodcast@gmail.com, where you can email us your thoughts, questions, concerns, anything you think we should review. If you're watching us now, you know we have a YouTube channel. But if you're not, this is YouTube.
Oh, is it?
It is. We are at Hayley and Kayli on YouTube, where you can watch our other reviews, as well as some other videos that we do. So
let us know what you thought about this movie down below. Let us know if you like M. Night Shyamalan films. Which one was your favorite? Were you into the book more? Did you like this at all? Let us know. But I think next time we're talking about...
We are going into Grammy season.
Yes.
It's one of the Grammy movies.
Right. I'll put it up on the screen because I forgot which one it was.
I forgot too. I was like, that's one of those.
But yeah, so we'll be talking about that next time. So make sure to check it out so we could talk about it together.